All right. All right, we're on. Thank you for joining LiveFULLy. My name is Chris Drabenstadt, and tonight the topic that I wanted to have out on the table for discussion, and we've got a small audience. It's me and Leon right now. Nancy was on earlier, but we'll see if she jumps back on. And I know there were a couple of other people that were trying to make it tonight, but there are also some competing Zooms and calls tonight. So we're just going to go with it. But what's been really on my heart this past week, is the power of choice, and just kind of talking through the power of the decisions that we have available to us every day, and the decisions that we choose to make. And not make. And so I'm going to start out the call with a short video. It's actually by Tony Robbins, and it was kind of by accident. I didn't do it on purpose that, he was just at our celebration event a couple weeks ago. But I just want to play this quick video and then go over a couple of the things that really stood out to me about having the power to make choices and how that leads to a healthy life, both with nutrition as well as just in general, to becoming the fullest, best, version of ourselves that we can be. So I'm going to share my screen and just launch this video, and then we'll get into a little bit of discussion.
What is the single force that controls the quality of your life? If there was one gift our Creator has given us, or the universe, whatever you believe, what is it? What is the one power that you have right now in this moment that can change everything? You have it, I have it, we all have it. It's this one singular individual power that can change anything in our life, regardless of what's happened to us. And I know you know the answer. The answer is the power of choice. The one thing we have in this world is we can't control the events, but we can choose what to focus on, we can choose what things mean, and we can choose what to do. Those three choices, those three decisions really control our life. It's not so much the conditions of our life that control our destiny as much as the decisions of our life. Try for a second to think about something. Think about your life and just think about, are there a few decisions? If I were to ask you 2 decisions you made in your life, that if you would have made a different decision, you would have had a totally different life. I mean, it may be a life may have been better or may have been worse, I don't know, but you would have a different life. I'm not asking you to buy into the fact that you should have known the answers. I just want you to see the power of a decision. How is your life better today because of the decision you made years ago, not just negative ones? Think about it. Sometimes a little decision changes your whole life. Like you decide one day to go to a certain school, and you go to that school, or to go eat someplace, and you bump into the person that becomes the love of your life. Or you meet someone, and you decide as a result of that you're going to become a photographer, or a software engineer, or a business person, or a doctor, a dentist, whatever. They impacted you, but you made the decision, that's what I really want. That's what my life's going to be about. And that decision has affected so much of your life, what you do, how you live your life, how you spend your time, what you earn or don't earn, who you attract into your life, beliefs you have, all come from some of these little decisions. What you decide to eat from your dinner plate each night certainly determines your physical destiny, right? We all know that, at least to a certain extent. I know there's a certain amount that's genetics, but I'm talking about the stuff you and I can control. So decisions equal destiny. It's not our conditions, it's our decisions. So if we want a new life, if we want a new experience, we got to make new choices. If you don't like the way your career is or your business is, change it. If you don't like your body, change it. If you don't like your relationship, change you first. Because if you change it, it'll bring you to the next one. Maybe it's time to change it too, but change yourself first. If you want to change anything in your life, you have the choice. So there's no right or wrong. I just want to make you aware in this breakthrough session that everything in our life changes the moment we make a decision. I mean a real decision. A decision is when you cut off any other possibility and you commit to something with everything you've got and you take action. The big decisions start with little decisions like, what am I going to focus on? Because whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. If you focus on all the things that have been done to you in your life, of course you're going to feel like hell. If you focus on all the amazing coincidences that have happened. Things that maybe they were guided, maybe not, but things happen. And because of that, you met this person that's your best friend, your husband, your wife, or because of that, you have this ability, or because you were there that day, God, you missed an accident. I don't know what it is, but whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. If you focus on people don't care, and you'll look for reasons why they don't care and evidence they don't care, you'll find it everywhere. If you look for evidence that people are really good people inside, that at some level we all care about each other, you'll find it. Seek and you shall find. The secret is, have you become conscious about your decision making? Because this breakthrough session is, really, you want to change your life, make new choices. New life comes from new choices, but you got to make conscious choices. When you make decisions about what to focus on and what things mean and what to do, and you're unconscious, you get pretty terrible results usually. Now, we've all done this. I do it still. We all do. But if you want to change your results, you got to become more conscious in your decision making. So think about it. What you focus on, you will feel. Whether it's true or not. You focus on how people don't care, you're going to feel they don't care. Second decision you make is, what do things mean? So you focus on something someone does, and you come up with a meaning, and the meaning is, no one loves me. The meaning is, they're trying to take advantage of me. Depending on what meaning you come up with, and you get to choose the meaning of anything. For some people, they say, this situation happened with the economy, and what that means is, I'm going broke. Somebody else said, the situation happened with the economy, guess what? That means I'm going to work harder, I'm going to be more creative, it changed everything. Everybody else is going to quit, so we're going to dominate the marketplace. For people to do it. Is this the end right now, or is it the beginning? See, whether it's the end or beginning is your choice. You get to decide, because once you make up a meaning, it's true. If you think that this is the end of a relationship, are you going to treat people the same way as if you think it's the beginning of a relationship? No way. In fact, I tell people, if you want to have a great relationship, think about this. Treat people like you did in the beginning of the relationship, and it won't be an end. The meaning we give things is very different, and so we feel different, and our life is different. In the beginning, you'll do anything for someone. Now you make up a new meaning. Why should I have to do that for them? Little choices, like what to believe about yourself, what to believe about other people, whether this is the end or the beginning, start to affect your whole life. And the third decision we make, we decide what to focus on, most of us unconsciously. We decide what things mean, and the third thing we decide is, what are we going to do? We decide to quit, because it's overwhelming. We decide to get strong and focus. We decide we're going to turn it around. We decide to wait and see. Ultimately, your destiny is determined by what you do. Your destiny is determined by your decisions. And I think in life, there's three things. There's our ability to choose what we're focused on, or to commit, to get a result, to put all our intention and focus into something. There's our ability to do the right things, to have the right strategy to execute. And then there's some grace. There's what some people call luck, some people call grace. There's, if you do the right things over and over again and with total focus, sometimes, you get good fortune that comes your way. And you tend to have more good fortune when you're totally focused and decisive and you take lots of action than if you kind of just sit around and accept things like that you don't have a future. We forget that you don't have to be famous to have the ability to change at least your own personal history. Change the direction we go in our life. We have the power to choose, even if you haven't before. You can finally say, no more, I won't put up with that. Within myself or from anybody else. And here's what I'm going to do differently. That's where the breakthroughs really start to happen. Now the question is, why do some people stand their ground and make something change versus other people just kind of accept things? Why do some people make bold decisions and other people make decisions that are based on trying to hang on to what they've got? Because when you can change your decisions, you can change your life. When you can change the force that controls your decisions, you can change anything in your life.
All right. Was everybody able to catch some of that? Hey, we got some more people on now. Oops.
Hey, what's up, my friend?
Okay, we're back. Can everybody hear me? Nod. Yeah. So when I was doing a lot of contemplation about the freedom of choice, and I've been having a lot of conversations with people lately, being connected with people that are either starting, isogenics or thinking about starting isogenics, a new, nutrition program, and this idea of this feeling of defeat, before you even get started. And I could hear it, I could feel it in people's energy about this idea of like the choice being taken away. It's like literally feeling like you're in prison, that it's like, well, I'm not going to be able to do XYZ anymore. And what if I can't stop at this one particular place and buy that, that one food that I just love so much every single day, that it's like, if I start this new program, it's going to take away my choice, my freedom of choice. And, what Tony Robbins was just talking about in that video was about becoming more conscious of the decisions that we make, and how we fall into, throughout life, we just start to make decisions unconsciously and really not realizing, like, what are the consequences of the decisions that we're making? Why are we making them? I think back to at the end, he was like, well, how come, some people are able, they have that capacity or that ability to make a decision and stick to it and, change your life, and other people can't. And I can't go through that. After, oops, I'm gonna mute. Okay. At the celebration event, it's like sometimes I see people walking up there on Ice a Body Challenge and like success stories. And even though I had lost 40 pounds, like, which I think is fantastic, with this nutrition, I still get into this mode sometimes of like, why can't I, get into like, why can't I do that? Like, how come what is it about them that they're able to make this choice and make this decision? And where I realized that I was really being sidetracked, or where I was going wrong, is that it's not one decision. It's making the decision over and over and over every day, like multiple times a day, all of the decisions that we're free to choose. And how do we feel about that freedom? Like, do we feel free to choose? Like, do you feel like, the choice is really yours to eat healthy versus like, I'm sitting down with my family and, everybody else is having something else, to eat. And I can't have that. So again, it's like, I'm not allowed. I use an analogy a lot in conversations about the cookie jar, and how, if there's the cookie jar in the kitchen, if you're like, absolutely prohibited from going in the cookie jar, like by no means can you have a cookie, what do you think about? The cookie. And I might not even want the cookie, but the fact that you're taking that choice away from me makes me desire that thing even more. And so it starts to become like, this power of choice starts to become about control. Like, who has the control, and are you taking that control away from me? But what I started also thinking about is that, then if we want to make these healthy decisions, and we want to make changes, and I want my life to look different and feel different, then why do I keep making the same decisions that sabotage, that self-destruct, that are, bad for me and not good for me? Like, why do I do that? And that's where, I come back to the things that Tony Robbins said. And then also I'm going to reference some things. I reference this book all the time by Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. And I do because she is so on point with the way that she talks about self-love and compassion and worthiness, being deserving of good health and being in a healthy body. And so we have these choices available to us every single day that we can either, it's like I see, I don't remember that game show back in the day that had the different doors that you could choose, like door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3, like which prize do you want? And you don't know what's behind the door. But, in this situation, you do. You know that you can make a choice that is going to be like bad for you, or you can make a choice that's actually going to be good and beneficial for you. And so knowing that we have that freedom throughout the day, every day, why do we continue, to go back and to backslide? And so, for me, I mean, it still happens. Like I, have by no means arrived. And it's like, I still question and try to help other people understand that, when you're starting something new, it's not about being perfect. And like, I'm going to read something here by Brene Brown, and I have it on a photo that I can, pull up, or I can put it in the post afterwards, where she talks about perfectionism. And it says, it talks about the self-talk that we go through. So like most women, I struggle with body image, self-confidence, and the always complicated relationship between food and emotions. Here's the difference between perfectionism diets and healthy goals. Perfectionism self-talk sounds like this. Nothing fits. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm ashamed of how I look. I need to be different than I am right now to be worthy of love and belonging. The healthy striving self-talk sounds like this. I want this for me. I want to feel better and healthier. The scale doesn't dictate if I'm loved and accepted. If I believe that I'm worthy of love and respect now, I will invite courage, compassion, and connection into my life. I want to figure this out for me. I can do this. And so when I read that, she talks about like perfectionism is not like, doesn't mean that you win. And for her, trying to be perfect, like, making every single decision to be like door number one instead of door number two. Let's say the door number one is she uses peanut butter as the example. For me, I'm so about peanut butter, but, if we go to something chocolate or something sugary, then that's my door number one. Door number two is that is healthy for me to put into my body. And so, trying to be perfect, these conversations that I'm having, that I can hear the resistance behind, now I'm going to have to choose door number one every single time. And I'm not going to be able to do that. And it's that feeling of there is no choice anymore. And so my coaching, and I know that, maybe some people, disagree with this, but the way that I coach people that I connect with is that the choice should be based on deservingness to be healthy, like in a healthy body. We're all unique. We all have a unique purpose to live out on this earth, and we need a healthy body to do it in. And so when you choose door number one every single time, Tony Robbins talks about like conscious decision making. Like, are you conscious that you're choosing that door every time? If you are, and you're like, doggone it, I did it again, go a step further. And this is what I've been doing, is like go one step further and think about, what are the emotions? How do I feel about having chosen door number one again for the fourth time today? Right? And it's okay that if you do it once, like that's the power of choice. If you're like, there's peanut butter and I want some peanut butter now, my coaching would be, have the peanut butter. And then think about, like, consciously, think about how you feel after. Does it make you feel good? Or does it make you feel crappy? Does it make you feel like I just did that out of, either an unconscious choice, or I did it out of a bad habit, or, maybe I felt like I didn't deserve to choose door number two. Like, why did I go for, the bad stuff behind door number one instead of going for the healthy stuff? Like, what are the emotions behind that? How did you feel after you made that decision? Did you feel like you had a choice? Were you in a situation with family, with friends, where you felt like you couldn't speak up? Brene Brown talks a lot in her book too about being your true authentic self, and how when it comes to your weight and our looks and our identity, that we get trapped sometimes. We're like, well, what if I'm out and they make fun of the fact that I'm cleansing? What if I'm sitting around 5 other people, like, well, I can't cleanse if everybody else is having pizza for a work lunch, like that, and so we're afraid to be like authentically, what is the choice that we have and that we actually want to make for ourselves? And so that was a lot. I had a lot of notes about, just like little things that I jotted down from Tony Robbins's video. And, just kind of some of the emotional things that lie behind like this idea of like, we do have the power of choice, like every single time. And what does that say as far as being responsible for where we are? When my weight, I had done every diet. Most of you guys know my story. I've tried everything to the point where I'm like, okay, let's have the most invasive surgery we can possibly have to like go down to a stomach that just won't allow it. Talk about taking away your power of choice. I mean, I completely took it away, that I was like, no, I don't even trust myself enough. And I'm not saying that there's like not to go have bariatric surgery. Medically, there are pros and cons to having it. Okay. I'll just put that out there now, but I'll tell you that the underlying reason why I did it is because I didn't trust myself to be able to make these choices on my own. And so, and then what happened? I end up gaining it back after losing 100 pounds from surgery. And now it's back to, now you have a choice to make. Do we want to keep going back in this direction or going in another direction? So I just want to open it up and, just kind of pause here and see, like, is this resonating with anybody? Do you run into these kind of issues yourself, like emotionally, about continuing to make choices? Do you feel like you have a choice? What are the things that impact your freedom of choice in the world every single day? Because we have it. It's just, a lot of times we block ourselves, or we allow other people to block us from like speaking up and making whatever choice we feel like we deserve to make. So let me open it up, and you guys can unmute yourselves, I think, if you have anything to add.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, David.
Finally made it. And hey, I want to thank you for doing this, because it's a choice, right, that we get to be here. I told my wife, my family, hey, look, I have a couple of Zoom calls. I make a choice to be here. So after, we're going to go have dinner. Right? So that's our choice. And the crazy part is that you put the word choice out there. And just today in my morning study, before Lenny canceled that last Bliss, he put out the You Were Born Rich book as the book of choice. And so I started doing it. And I said, you know what? And then he canceled it. And I'm like, well, I'm still going to go through with it because it's my study. I choose to. And I learned today, whenever we have a big goal, we're going to add conflict into our life. And that's going to create resistance. And then that equals choice. The greatest power we possess in life is choice, right? And I'm like, holy moly, here you are talking about it, right? I choose to be here today to sharpen my skills, personally develop myself. It's a choice. And then you were talking about a couple other things. And I had my spiritual study today too. And it talked about emotions follow obedient actions. And that really resonated with me, because I don't always feel emotional about going into the gym when it's 107 outside. But I used to post on that. I used to say, hey, I'm still dedicated. It's choice. And I just felt like, when I do exercise, when I choose door number one that's healthy, man, I feel much better. I may not feel good at the time, but after I get done, I feel I'm obedient to the plan. I'm obedient to the process. And so I've kind of been learning some of that from you, as you talked about. And then I also was reading today about the law of repetition. And that struck me, because in choice, it's about being consistent, and repetition is consistent to getting through, to breaking through. And he says here, the number of times you or something is spaced repetitiously. So I think about, how did I lose 108? Well, I got up every morning and I worked out for 20 minutes, whether I wanted to or not. And then I'd come home and I'd find a way to walk the dog. And then in the middle of my day, I'd make sure I planned my food and I had my shakes. And I told the wife, hey, look, and I'm not having dinner. I'm doing this, right? I choose. And I realized I haven't done all of that. And it was really powerful. So I just wanted to share some of that with you because I think that what you have been saying makes complete sense, and it's been definitely resonating with me. And the other choice I'm going to make here is I'm going to review Celebration with Kelly shortly so that we can kind of have some of these same ahas. And did you retake your notes yet on your lost notes at all? Chris, I'll let you talk to that.
No, I haven't gone back over. I don't know. Did I mention to you that the notebook from my Rod Hairston session? Yeah. No. So those are, I mean, I pretty much remember like what the points were, that I wrote down, but it was just, I really wanted to be able to go back to that, because he talked about, a lot of the drivers behind our behavior, not just about what we eat, but, with our business and like whether or not we're successful, which I think applies to everything. And there's a movie where there's a line about being like a two-time loser. I think it was old. It was like When a Man Loves a Woman back in the 80s with Andy Garcia and Meg Ryan. And it was like an AA meeting and a guy, sits down next to him and he's like, yeah, me too. Like I'm a two-time loser. And I say that sometimes in my head because when I first started Isogenics, I quit. I did 30 days and I quit. And it wasn't until 5 months later that I made the decision to try it again. And I didn't do it perfectly. Even when I did, lose the weight, but it still came off. But like, I didn't do it. I thought I was going to have to do it this particular way, which for me is why I get so excited when people are getting started, because it's like, there is no perfect. And if you do it perfectly, like, what happens when you do choose door number 1 on a particular day is judgment. And that was another point that I wrote down about like how dangerous it is to fall into this harsh judgment of like not being perfect. Like I messed up today. And what's Cindy saying? I don't have a microphone. Help me feel better. Okay, I just want to, can you guys see that everybody can see the chat? Awesome. Perfection in my life, understanding about why I think the way that I do in my choices. It's with food. It's with, I've got 10 things going on right now and I'm having trouble focusing. And so I'm judging the fact that I'm like not getting as much done as I should be getting done. It's like, stop being so hard on yourself. Like some of you know that I love to pull like angel tarot cards and, like see what kind of spiritual guidance comes from that. Everybody, does something different. People pray, people, do different things, connect different ways, like to whatever source that you believe in. But I had this kind of like repeated theme about like being gentle. And I wrote down judgment and I actually looked it up because I always pay really close attention to like what things really mean. Like what is like, I think I kind of know what that means, but I don't really know. Like dominion was another word that I kept hearing over and over again. And I'm like, I never hear that word, but I've heard it like 5 times this week. So I looked up, I'm like, well, I think I know what dominion means, but it means like this, like power over, like sovereignty. And I was like, well, sovereign's like same thing. Like, well, what does sovereignty mean? Supreme power over. So when we think about like our choices and that we have this power, this sovereignty, this dominion, like it's like I have the power, I can do this. But when we choose to not do the best thing, how do we do that without coming down like this harsh judgment of the choice that we made? And I'm like, oh my God, like I've started over and over on so many things, on the isogenics, on the what is my purpose and which book. I take like 5 books to bed. at night, so because I'm not sure which one I'm going to want to read. And it's just like, well, which one do I choose? Like the power of choice, and feeling like, like putting this pressure on, how do we get rid of that judgment? And I would love to hear, some feedback to see if any of you guys go through this judgment of, perfectionism. Changing habits does require consistency, Dave, just like you said, but we're not perfect, like there are going to be days that we didn't get up and go to that doggone gym. I didn't post about it. I did not choose door number 2 like I should have, and that is okay. It's okay. Like for me, if I would have had a coach that came down on me every time I thought that I messed up or chose the wrong thing, oh my goodness, like I would have never stuck it out, So let me pause there and see if anybody has any thoughts about judgment or perfectionism. Cindy, thanks for your note there, about perfectionism, being able to make better choices and being okay, when you don't. So that's life.
Hi, Chris.
I mean, I'm not the only one that's not perfect.
I just want to say something about self-judgment, Chris. That's one of our worst things as individuals. We judge ourselves. And, with self-love and more self-enrichment, we learn to overcome that. It's something that you're born with, something that you can learn off others. And, when we make our choices with self-judgment, it often kills the choices that we make. With choices comes the consequences, with pros and cons. We need to, look at everything that we do, think about it, put it into practice. We're going to fail. That's human nature. But just because we fail doesn't mean that we fail. When we fail, the only way is up, as they say. So, life is what we look at it. If life is great, life is going to be so awesome for us. And it's a great topic that you picked today, because it happens to a lot of people, especially over here in Australia. Our 100-pound club, a lot of our members are turning towards another system, and it's kind of really ticked me off. So I've set a goal to see, now I'm putting my foot into it. I'm going to try and lose another 30 kilos, and just to show to them that it's not because Isogenics has failed them, it's because they have failed themselves. Because Isogenics has showed them that they could do it in the beginning, and it's just that they haven't, really gone back to think how they began, how they started, how they lost all the weight in the first place. So, this is my choice to do it, because I want to show them that, what's that saying? Systems don't fail, we fail the system. So, with a little bit more self-love, a little bit more self-enrichment, hopefully they'll see for themselves that, they're making wrong choices and they need to come back to where it all began and go back to basics. So that's all I'll say. Thanks.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. As you were talking, I, was thinking about what Casey has, says so often when she gets ready to cleanse, is when she's been, choosing door number 1 too much and eating, too much crap, which we all do. She always says, I deserve to cleanse. I deserve it. And it's not, again, like taking the power of choice away is, oh my gosh, it's day 7. I have to cleanse because that's what's on the schedule, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And it's this completely different experience because we have to do it. I have to stick to this. And it's like, no, when you're coming from an emotional place, like I love that you brought up self-love, when it becomes about like, I deserve to reset, right? To come back. I deserve to lose 30 more kilos. I deserve to like get back on the horse. And I also deserve to like not be judgy about how crappy I've been, you know, like, or the choices that I have. Like, I'm grateful for the fact that we have free will and the freedom of choice. Like that we live in a country, we live in a world, well, not even a world, like some people don't have a choice, you know, that we're able to get up in the morning and choose door number 1 or door number 2. And so how does it feel? Right? Like based on like, well, if I chose door number 1, like, does that feel good? Or do I feel like there's an issue, like for me, of like worthiness? And it's real subtle. It's down below the surface. And it's, you know, it's like when it's in your mind, like I really need to do a cleanse. I should be cleansing. I think I'm going in the other direction. I've been making some bad choices. It's like, stop there. And again, like peel the onion back. Go one more layer down. Why am I making these decisions? I have the power of choice to be good to me or to be not good. And for however many days in a row or however many times today, you know, I chose to be not good. How do I feel at the end of the day? Yeah, like it's just sometimes literally like out loud, I'll be like, ugh, like ick. You know, like it's ick, because I know that if had I made, again, like back to that Tony Robbins video, like how would your life be different had you done some, you know, made some decisions differently? Like, do you harp on it? Do you judge it? No, everything happens perfectly in our lives. Our journey is our journey. We have to experience what we do and go through what we do in order to learn. But there's a difference between like just like being hard on ourselves and judgmental and unkind. Right? I think about Wayne Dyer's 101 Ways to Transform Your Life, and he says, you know, if you have the chance to be right or to be kind, choose kind. You know, like take that kind option sometimes, like when you're ready to make a decision about either, you know, getting back on the horse when it comes to nutrition. I need to do another, you know, I deserve to start over again and do another 30-day system. That's being kind to myself, not punishing, not judging, not like you're, like Brene Brown said in that book, you know, you're fat, you're ugly, and you need to do something about it. Well, how does that feel? Ick. Feels awful. You know, it feels mean. It feels sad. I mean, like all of these things that are like, no, like until we get to the point where our decisions, our freedom of choice is coming from a place of love, of kindness to ourselves, of I deserve to choose door number 2 today because yesterday maybe I didn't do it, you know, so good. But that's okay. Like I'm human and I get it. And guess what? There's going to be more times that I'm going to start over again. It's like the decision to start over and over and over. You know, it's not, you get one shot at it and done. It's to do that every single day, but to love yourself, you know, through the process. And it's just, you know, it's just a struggle. And for me, which a lot of times it's like I show up to these calls and I'm like, man, I hope I'm not just preaching to myself, because to be able to really dig deep and find what the emotions are, you know, underneath what's causing, like there's a reason why I was 100 pounds overweight. And it wasn't because food was jumping in my mouth. It wasn't the food, right? Like it was me. It was me making a choice over and over all day, every single day, however many days in a row for 20 years that landed me 100 pounds overweight. Well, let's talk about that. Let's not talk about the food, the system, that I have to cleanse tomorrow. It's like, we know that works. That's just called good nutrition. It's called like your body is going to thrive off of it, like easy peasy, right? It's the what got us there in the first place that, you know, these choices. Why that choice again? You know, do you want, like, is it conscious? Like, is it in front of you? Like, so many times, you like grab for stuff. And, you know, I hear people say, like, well, I'm a stress eater. And I'm like, I get it. Like, how easy is it? How habitual is it to just like grab it, overeat, and to the point that you're like, ick, right? How do you feel? I feel like crap. Yeah. Why are you making yourself feel crappy? Again, I'm like looking at myself, talking to myself, like, why are you like choosing this? But acknowledging I made the choice. It's not the best one. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to be harsh. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to get back on the horse and I'm going to choose a different one tomorrow. And then I'm going to wake up the next day and I'm going to try and do my best the next day to make those good choices. But being empowered to have the choice, you know, I feel like is everything. Don't take that away from me. And as a part of like I said, the way that I coach and the way that I feel like works is like, I'm not going to tell you to do anything. I'm not going to tell myself I have to do anything. I want the choice and I want to do it for my own good, like for the good of my spirit, for my body that my spirit walks around in, that has a purpose to fulfill on this planet. Like I'm going to make the choice for that because I don't want to feel ick again and again and again. Anything from anybody on that?
Yeah, I've got something, Chris. Leon, thank you for that challenge, the 30 kilos. I'm on a reset, as I'm going to call it, because I've had a couple friends share with me that they're not using the system completely. They're not cleansing. And as a coach, how do you get them to? I don't get them to. I show them. I'm a leader that builds leaders by example. And I haven't been promoting it. I haven't been talking about it. And it was an interesting stat. 26% of people on Isogenics are buying Cleansed for Life. So that's a huge statistic to tell people. That means a quarter of us are buying cleansed products, and yet we're getting all these results. So that means that not all of us are doing the system exactly as it was scientifically designed. And I know I got to 100 pounds because of the scientifically designed piece. And then I go and make it Dave's way. You know how like there's all like Burger King has it your way, right? You have all these places that have it your way. That's right. But my way is what got me to 403. Okay. Isogenics way is what's going to get me to ideal weight. And one of the things that, Leon, that you spoke about was self. And when I'm not happy with myself, that's when I go eat because I'm like not in a good state. So Isogenics brings me to happiness. And I learned this weekend, happiness is about who, not what. And that kind of tells me happiness is about who I'm becoming. And Isogenics gives me that vehicle to become something. And it's improved my life completely because I know that it's not what I make. It's who I'm becoming. It's how many people I'm affecting. And I went to a wedding and my uncle comes up and says to me, Dave, keep it up. I'm like, how do you know? Well, your aunt and I talk about you and, we know that your mom needs help and keep it up. I'm like, okay. The influence that we have now that we've taken this step out and we've published it. It's now a mission that we can't ever give up, right? And Lenny spoke about something today that it just came to mind or Dave did, people are depending on me. This is our mission. people are depending upon me. My wife is depending upon me. My daughters are depending upon me. My coworkers are depending upon me. The people I have yet to meet are depending upon me. So, Leon, I take up your challenge as well. I'm committed to lose another 60 and get to ideal weight and show our team that it is all possible with Isogenics, because as long as we do it the way, the Isogenics way, I'm fine. When I go Dave's way, that's when problems happen. So I just align myself back and get back into alignment. So I wanted to share that with you.
That's awesome. Now we're like competitive all up in here, like, all right, I'm going to do it too. I moved my camera back because I'm like on purpose wore my shirt that says flawed and fabulous, because we're talking about choices and making bad ones sometimes, and then, making good ones to make up for it. But one of the things that I wrote down about Rod Hairston, I don't know if anyone was able to dial into the virtual Super Saturday this past Saturday, but his segment on it, I mean, he's always great, but his segment when he talked about, having your health and how much it impacts all of the other areas in your life. And, Dave, like you just triggered that for me by saying, like my wife is dependent on me, my family, like when you don't have your health, everything else suffers. Like you can't go to work, and so your finances are impacted, like your relationships suffer. He just put it out there. He's like, your sex suffers. Like, I mean, everything, like when you are taken out as far as your health is concerned. And when we're talking about, that's where I was at. I mean, I'm in the doctor, pretty much, in, what I thought was good health. And now I'm hearing words like pre-diabetic and high blood pressure. And if you don't do X, Y, Z, taking choices away, if you don't do this, you're going to die. And, I think about like stories. We just watched the Jill Birth video at a launch party over the weekend, where she talked about how that impacted, the rest of her family, like being able to do certain things or not do certain things, because she was deciding, she was choosing to make these choices that were continuing to be like to her detriment, right? And how that impacts other people, like not just us, but spouses and kids and, emotionally. Like we had Marco Strowski on, before Celebration that talked about like, how do you think that felt, when my son comes home? And at Leon, you've talked about like was it your niece, I think that, said, hey, I'm worried about you. Like, it's not just about us. It's about showing up in the world for other people that depend on us, that love us, that we're here to serve. And how do you do that when you don't have your health? And so that was just something that really stuck out to me, from Rod's segment of the Super Saturday. But one of the other things I wanted to just touch on before we wrap up is the three things that Tony Robbins mentioned in that video. Number one was like what you focus on, you feel. So where is your focus? If you're focused on, a half a pound, if you're focused on, I have to do this cleanse, if it's all kind of like judgment and harsh and I don't have a choice in the matter, to me, it's like automatic failure, because life is choice. Like life is being able to, like success is being able to come from a place of love and deservingness. And, I'm going to make this choice for me. And so like, what are you choosing to focus on instead of? So like, you might not know. And again, it's back to, is it conscious or is it unconscious? But like, if you're not choosing healthy eating, then you're choosing the other, right? You're choosing, and you might not think about it that way, but you are every day. Like it's got to be every time something's going in, it should be conscious. It should be like, I am choosing to have the cookie from the cookie jar, and it is okay. I feel good about that. You know, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to self-destruct, and I feel like I'm not deserving, and I am fat and I'm ugly and I don't like myself. Like, it's got to be conscious. And so it's getting to that point where that unconscious behavior, like, has got to be like, you know, like, bring a stop to the unconscious choices, because it is a choice. You know, it's like you are choosing the opposite to not choose to be healthy. And we don't want to face that sometimes, like, self included. It's like, I'm choosing to not do a 30-day system. I'm choosing not to cleanse when I know in the back of my head I'm saying you deserve to cleanse. Like, that is a choice. And so how conscious or unconscious is that? But it was really the second thing that he mentioned is, what do the decisions mean? That I was like, like, does it mean, like, what am I thinking when I make that decision? And again, bringing that to your conscious right up there in front. Am I choosing door number one, which is bad for me, food, or, you know, overeating, or, you know, pushing myself to the brink, or, you know, stress eating? Am I choosing that because I feel like a failure? Because I feel like I'm going to fail anyway, so why not just fail right now with the cookie? Is it because, you know, I don't feel good enough? I'm not good enough to actually succeed at this, or, you know, I don't deserve to succeed. Because, like, it sounds ridiculous to say, like, no, I don't do that. You know, like, when you ask them out loud, it's like, no, that's ridiculous. Okay, well then why? If it's not that, right? Then why? Because it back to, again, conscious, it is a choice to do the opposite of what is good for me. What feels good, what I know in my mind and my heart and my spirit is good for me, for my physical body. Like, I can make it be as unconscious as I want it to be. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why I was 100 pounds overweight. What is the meaning behind it? And that's work. You guys, that is like, oh my gosh, it's books, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's forgiveness, a lot of forgiveness. You know, it's compassion, it's the be gentle card over and over again. Like, it's the perfection. There is no it's the gift of imperfection, gifts plural of imperfection. Like, there are gifts in being imperfect. Like, there is no perfect. So, you know, given that, are there any, like, I was going to say, final thoughts on, like, what's the
so you were talking, and so I was looking through some of the notes from Rod at Celebration, and he said right here, I deserve to get past our sabotage blocks and help others do the same. Right? Really, that's what Isogenics is it's a vehicle that helped me stop sabotaging myself, because that's what I'm the master of. I grew up with a nickname, Demolition Dave. So when I did construction, I'd come in and I'd do construction, right? And I'd demo. That was so fun, just going berserk. Then you have to clean up. But I learned that I was Demolition Dave to myself, and I demoed whatever work I did. And it's learning to not sabotage. So I wanted to share that with you. And that's really my passion now, is helping others to stop the sabotage, because that does block us from our ultimate ideal self and our God-given self. And so I wanted to share that with you. And there is another Zoom call coming on tonight. Do you guys know about that? The ISO Warriors at 6. So I just wanted to share that.
I do, yeah. 3 minutes. Herb Cepeda, right? Yeah. And who's the other guy? Stewart? Is it somebody Stewart? John Stewart? Rod Stewart? Yeah, anyway, for sure. So we can go ahead and wrap up, but I just wanted to read one last quote to wrap up the call. So I was reading a book. It was, I believe this came out of the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. It's by Deepak. I mean, you can't go wrong with Deepak Chopra, right? He talks about the ego and self-image. Says the ego is your self-image. It is your social mask. It is the role that you are playing. Your social mask thrives on approval. It wants to control, and it is sustained by power because it lives in fear. And I read that chapter or that paragraph over and over because I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much goodness in there about the ego is what's driving our self-image. And it says it wants control and it's sustained by power. And how powerful is our ego that's trying to get our own way, keeping us in bad habits, in bad choices, right? But to know that it lives in fear. So bringing, having the power of choice, like I just encourage everybody to, try to bring your choices on a daily basis to your conscious, get it right up there, right in front where you can see it, and notice, like, is this being done out of fear? Or am I making this choice out of love and compassion and worthiness because I deserve it, because I deserve to be good to myself? So thanks you guys for participating in our Power of Choice Zoom tonight. And I'd love to see all your faces every week. We'll be back on Monday at 8. So we'll be able to jump on the next call. So thank you. Good night.